The first part of learning styles is the disposition. And the disposition is a personality thing. It's not something that you can change. It's not something that with effort we can become different. This is hardwired into us. It's how we are. We are outgoing or we're shy. We are thoughtful or we're kind of engineering minded. We're always looking at how to put things together. It's a personality thing. And why this is important is because it actually has to do with how we relate to the world. That we look at things through this lens of who we are. Interestingly, I was trying to teach this concept to my kids. And so I gave them a situation that they are all very familiar with. I said, we just walked into, it happened to be the chapel at church, and I want you to tell me what you were thinking and what you were feeling. We just walked through the doors. What do you think? And one of my kids was like, well, I'm looking at the pews and I'm counting them and I'm seeing where the gaps are and I'm finding the pattern in the empty versus the full benches. And another kid said, oh, I'm looking at the people and I'm recognizing who has a need, who's sad, who's happy, how many kids are there, who the people, he was very oriented on the people. And my husband said, I'm looking for a bench that's big enough for my family. I'm looking for a goal. Here's my objective. Let's go achieve this objective. And I thought it was so fascinating that here with this same situation, we did the exact same thing. All of us have a different experience based on how we view the world. This is our personality, and it colors everything we do. Every experience we have comes through this filter of our personality. And so understanding what these personalities are really helps us tap into teaching our kids in effective ways. And you've all heard of personality conflicts. This comes when we start saying my personality is best, or the personality that complements mine is the best. And we're trying to force somebody to be something that they're not. That's when we start having conflicts. Or another way we can have conflicts is when we have two different types of personalities inside ourselves and we sort of have conflict there trying to decide how we interact with the world. But really, as long as we recognize that everybody's different and everybody's valuable in the way that they see the world, there's no need to have conflict. Different does not mean enemies. We can all exist in the same space and work together. And one of the ways that we need to work together is to really meet the needs of every disposition, to really validate every disposition and say, this is what you are naturally good at and it's important. What you bring is super important, and I really appreciate what you are doing and bringing that is just naturally yours, the way that you exist, that you're bringing it to our family and to this world. Thank you so much. So acknowledging the good that every personality brings is really important when it comes to being effective in using personality styles. Saying, hey, I see what you are, I see who you are, and what you bring is really valuable. So the first personality is performing. And if you pulled your kid out because he was not really getting along in school, likely it's because he has a performing personality. Every single group, whether you're a public school or a private school, charter school, homeschool, everybody teaches to a specific learning style, to a specific personality, actually. And public school teaches to a personality, but it's not this one. And this personality really conflicts with public school's methods. And so a lot of times when your child has problems in public school, it's just a personality issue. They don't learn the way that it's being taught there, and they like unlearn. It's more than just, hey, that's not coming into me in a very effective way. It's the opposite of how they learn. And so they're really not learning there, and they're having really problems with personality as well as learning. And it just has to do with how the information is being delivered. So these kids are often disruptive. They're the kind that are getting up in front of people all the time. Bill Cosby was labeled as disruptive. He was a disruptive influence in his class because, can you imagine having Bill Cosby in your class? He's totally going to be the center of attention and disrupting everything. Abe Lincoln was another one who would travel really long distances and listen to people speak, and then he'd come back and gather all the workers and just talk to them and teach them everything that he'd learned, because he liked to be the center of attention. He liked to be where everybody was looking, and he was definitely a performing personality, and that created problems. His boss really hated it because he needed everybody to be out there working. So it does create this conflict a lot of times with this personality. They are very bold though. They will go out and do things that a lot of other personalities won't do because it's scary. But this personality is such that they will just get right out there and say, I will do hard things. I will run the risk of rejection and people saying mean things to me and all sorts of things. They will do it because they're not afraid of that. They're just very bold and very confident. And it's really great quality. Because they're so very busy, oftentimes they are labeled as ADHD. That's a real diagnosis. It does exist, but a lot of times kids are diagnosed as ADHD when really all they are is performing personalities. So that can be really helpful when you bring your kids home. You discover that medication is not necessarily what is needed to fix this. It's just a different way of teaching. They're very smart, really, really quick. If you think about it, what kind of intelligence it takes to get up in front of people and have something come at you and be able to turn it into a joke or be able to connect ideas in a way that's very witty. It takes a lot of cognition. It takes a lot of focus. And so they're very, very smart. And a lot of times they don't get credit for that. You know, they're the class clown and they're the silly one and they're not really the smart one, but it takes so much thought and so much fast processing to be able to be in front of people and to turn things into a joke so very fast. So they're very, very witty. And quite often these are the kids who are going to be making funny sounds and imitating voices and accents and noises, and they just like to have everybody looking at them and interacting with them. So some of the great things that this disposition brings, because it is really easy to look at this particular personality and say, you're very difficult, you won't sit down, you won't hold still, you won't listen. These things are true. They won't, they can't. It's not a natural thing for them. But what they do bring is a ton of fun, you know, an energy and laughter and enjoyment and excitement. They make an environment that could often be quite boring become exciting. They bring a lot to the table that way. They're very playful. They're dramatic. A lot of them go into drama, either in high school level, or they'll even go on as a career and be in drama. And they are, like I said, they're super smart. They're very, very clever. Some of the risks that they are willing to take is rejection on a public stage, that they are willing to say, I will become an actor or an actress and take it if I lose, and I'll be a politician, I'll stand up in front of people, and I will accept a loss. I'm willing to run that risk of rejection because I'm just bold and confident and want to be up in front of people. And they are very high energy and have a lot of positive energy that they bring to things. A lot of them do turn into actors and actresses. That's kind of the natural, you see where that's going. You like to be in front of people, you will probably be an actor on the stage or something like that. But you also have athletes that are in front of this stage. I mean, not just they are in front of the camera when it comes to making ads for some things, but they're on camera when it comes to their sport. They are having people zoom in on their leg and talk about their muscle and how it might be torn. And I mean, they are really under the public scrutiny, and they are willing to take that deep look at who they are, and they're bold and confident in that because that's who they are. And so athletes are often this personality as well. Trial lawyers, the same thing. They have to deal with high pressure situations where people will kind of be getting on them, and you run the risk of losing. You know, they have these really high stakes games that they play, but it's worth it because they like to get up in front of people and perform in a lot of ways. And think, what would we do if we didn't have people who are willing to do this as athletes or actors or trial lawyers? And it's very important what they bring. Politicians often get up in front of people and talk, and they have to learn how to speak appropriately and engagingly to people. So this is a very natural place for people with a performing personality to go. And even if you don't make a career choice that will lead you somewhere in one of these areas, these people are often the life of the party. They're the ones who bring the fun. They're the ones that as soon as they show up, everybody's having fun and enjoying themselves. So they bring a lot to wherever they go. These guys are high energy movers and shakers. They are a lot of fun. Now, because they are movers and shakers, they do not do well in school where you are not moving or shaking. You are just sitting here at the desk and reading or writing or, filling out a worksheet. This is not okay for them. They hate it. They have a really hard time learning in that situation. They want to learn in other ways. So here are the different techniques that you can use as a mom or as a teacher to teach to this particular personality. First off, it really needs to be entertaining. But a note on entertaining. You do not need to be entertaining. You do not need to juggle. You don't need to sing or dance in front of them to make it all sorts of fun and entertaining. No, you just have to find things that they're entertaining by nature. Things like games, or outdoor sports or indoor sports, things that naturally, just by nature of who they are or what they are, they're going to be fun and entertaining. So instead of spending all of your time saying, what can I do to be so fun and happy for these kids. Instead, you say, what can I find that is naturally fun and naturally happy? And I'll just put that in front of my kids. So if this is not your personality, if you personally are not a performer, it can be really overwhelming to say, I don't know how to teach using entertainment. Don't do it. Don't try to do it. Just go find things that provide that entertainment on their own. And I'm just putting a bunch of things on this slide. There's a ton of information here. I'm not going to go all over it, but these are different ways that you can teach to that. Also, when you do things, they want to have immediate relevance in their life. So it's things that they really care about. You want to pursue their personal passion. And in order to make that happen, you do have to give them quite a bit of time on their own to figure out what they are interested in at any given moment. And finally, you want to have things that offer variety and challenge, but you don't have to come up with this on your own. You can say, I'm just going to put a twist on what we already do. Like if you want to teach sight words, then you lay a bunch of cards out on the floor that have sight words on them, give them a beanbag, and then they throw the beanbag onto the sight word and read the word that the beanbag hit. That's just a twist that keeps it it's challenging and it's fun and exciting and it's different, and you don't have to recreate the wheel and constantly be thinking, how can I be super creative? You just take something that already exists and allow them to learn through moving their body. So take a sport and say, you're going to run to this base, and when you get to that base, you have to yell out your 9 times tables before you can run to the next base, or something like that. That game already exists. You just adapt it to meet whatever it is that you're working on in the moment, and that takes some of the pressure off of being entertaining, but it still uses things that are exciting and have a lot of variety for kids, and also a lot of motion for them because they like to move their bodies. The other way that these kids learn really well is by doing things with their hands. And so we're talking about building projects, making a dog house or a bird house or a kiwi coset, or you can go get some lumber and just let them hammer it together to be able to figure things out. This is really, really helpful because the skills that you learn in this process, a lot of times we don't really recognize how amazing it is to be able to fit things together and create something new out of basically just wood and nails. But allowing them this opportunity to build something creates connections in their head. It creates connections with math. They're going to be able to see angles and how they work together, and engineering. It's nice that those angles work together, but once you put it in 3D, are they going to stand or are they going to fall? So it really brings this learning into a realistic place where they can use it in the real world. And again, that's personally applicable, so it means a lot to them. And you can, the other things on this list, make charts, make projects, make, clay formations, or let them play in the mud. And somebody actually, this is so cool, we were doing World War I. And so the project that he came up with to explain World War I is he had a big old pie pan, or not pie pan, it was like a baking dish. And he filled it with mud, and then he chiseled out these different tunnels through it. And he put little army guys in there so you could see what it was like in World War I and how big they were and how many people they had crammed in there. And that would be a wonderful way for this type of personality to learn, that it's very hands-on project learning, and they're able to take that information and really assimilate it because they took the time to really build it for themselves. That's a great way to teach this personality. So these guys really love to move and act and do, and we live in a world where this is wonderful. Everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a YouTube channel. Just let them film themselves, start their own channel, write a blog, whatever, do something with their friends, but you don't need to. It would be really helpful if you allowed them to do films or skits or plays or, acting on the stage, something like that, because that is the type of stuff that really brings the learning home to them. And a word, I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of times I look at all these things and I think, but they're not learning. They're not learning how to read, they're not learning how to write, they're not learning grammar. They are. This is what is so hard, is the way that we've been taught is that it must be worksheets and it must be graded and it must fit within this paradigm of what learning looks like. These guys, the reason they're not doing well in school is because that is not how they learn. This is how they learn. They are learning how to interact with people. They're pretending to be people when they're acting. There's nothing more empathetic than actually pretending to be somebody else. They're learning about history by studying about those people so that they can then imitate them. How great is it if you just put great stories into their head and let them act them out? They will be pretending and practicing being good people. There's nothing more effective than that. No worksheet can compete with that. That is really, really powerful learning. And doing things on your own, especially when you look at the types of things that these guys are likely to become when they grow older, they should be practicing acting. They should be practicing getting up in front of people and speaking. They should be doing debates because that's where they're going in their lives. That's what they are naturally good at. And so you are preparing them to succeed at what they naturally own in this personality. And you just don't want to get so caught up and say, but that doesn't fit the mold. That's right. These kids don't fit that mold. They fit this other mold of creativity and figuring it out on their own and doing things that really matter to them in a hands-on way. They are learning all about tons of stuff. When it comes to reading, yes, you're going to teach them to read. You're going to teach them math and all the different things we were talking about that can help teach math or science or whatever. But just let them learn in the way that they learn, and they will pick up all of the things that make our hearts so tense that we worry that they're not going to get because it's not in the format that we're used to. Let them learn the way they will, the way that is natural to them, and they will pick up all the reading. They will be so interested in people. They will read scripts. They will do it. They'll pick up those skills doing things the way that they are interested in doing them. Okay, this is kind of the best one. These kids have a really short attention span for somebody talking to them, which means all of your lessons need to be really just to the point, just right there. This is what I'm trying to teach you, and then give them lots of opportunity to learn on their own using these, skits and acting and filming and stuff. Let them do the most of the learning there. This is good because I personally think teaching to this personality is a lot of work, even if I'm just putting the energy into finding stuff instead of putting the energy into entertaining myself. It's still not natural, and so it can be really challenging, but you only have to do it a little bit. You only have to just teach little punchy lessons and then let them have lots of free time to do it on their own. I will say, actually, in reference to that last little bit, that it is important to not just say, go off and do whatever you want, just jump on the tramp or whatever. You actually want to take these kids and give them options and say, let's do a mock trial. Let's do, we've actually got this script that we found and we'll read this script together and I'll be this person and you be that person. You want to give them options that work within their personality, but let them choose within those options. Let them have that autonomy to make that decision because they want to own it. They want it to be theirs, but still they don't know everything that they're interested in or what they naturally are good at. So you want to put that out there for them and say, hey, have you considered doing comedy skits? Let's think about that and give them those options. Okay, so everybody deserves to be motivated, right? This is kind of one of the biggest things we do as teachers is that we want to motivate them to do their own learning, to own their own education. And so one of the best ways that we can do that to motivate anybody is to recognize what they are doing really well and acknowledge what they're doing well as valuable. Instead of looking at it and saying, man, you can't hold still, you want to look at it and say, oh, I love your energy. You want to see the positive. If they are driving you crazy, it just depends. Sometimes you do have to take a step back and not be driven crazy by it, but sometimes you can also say it is time to hold still. So, family, it's work. You have to give and take. But by the same token, it is important to say, hey, you're really funny. That was a really witty comment. That was really enjoyable to watch you play with your sibling. So be willing to see the positive and to point it out to them. And then give them lots and lots of free time to do what it is they're going to do. Give them that punchy lesson and then say, here are your options for whatever you want to do. We go make a diorama, go use some clay and build something, whatever. Off you go do it on your own, and they will just go in there and they'll own it because it's theirs. They want that freedom. That's what they chafe against, sitting down in the chair and being told what to do. That's why they're not learning. They learn in this space where they're able to do it on their own. And again, that building in that they can choose their own activities, but I would put it out as like a buffet. Here are some different activities that you could choose that would be good for this. And I would always throw in, you could read a book. They probably won't, but you can always mention it as an option. And then let them entertain. Let them be who they are. Let them excel in the things that are naturally good to them, good for them, with them, inside them. They are good at entertaining. Let them do it. It's going to be what they need to do whatever they're supposed to later in life. And so they need this experience entertaining in a way that they say, okay, that's appropriate, that's not appropriate, that's funny, that missed the mark. Let them try. Let them practice. This is who they are. And they need space to be able to practice it at home. So, in summary, lots of room to move and do. You have to be able to say, inside our front room, we're going to run bases, or we're going to throw beanbags, or we're going to jump up and down to learn math facts. It takes a little bit of space. They're not going to fit in a desk. There needs to be some room that they can move and do and grow and learn, because that's how they learn. and it needs to be fun and challenging. But again, you don't have to be fun. You don't have to provide the challenges. You just go find things that naturally are fun and naturally do challenge, and then allow lots of unscheduled free time. This can be one of the hardest parts, is recognizing that they need time to go and do on their own. Again, I am not saying that they should not read or that they should not do math. I'm just saying have those be punchy lessons, and then give them lots of time to be able to assimilate that in the way that they naturally learn, out and having free time. Field trips are really helpful for this type of personality. They like to get out and see it, and again, it makes it personally applicable that they want to see, well, how do they make cheese? You know, that's really cool, fascinating, watching them make cheese, or going to the dairy and watching how they deal with cows, or going to the military and watching how they work with people and the training there. They want to go and they want to see how the world actually works, and they want to see how people are so that they can incorporate that into their worldview and how things work. So field trips are really helpful. The other thing, sort of like field trips, is real life learning situations. So a lot of field trips can be, let's go to a museum, or let's go to an aquarium, or somewhere that's sort of built around the idea of there are walls, you know, this is what you're going to learn in this space. But a real life learning experience would be going to the newspaper and watching how they actually get the print on the newspaper, or, you know, that's kind of old anymore, but going somewhere where they are actually doing something in real life and seeing how it works in the real world. That can be a really great learning tool for this type of personality. Performing personalities bring so much later in life. We all acknowledge that actors and actresses are great and they're wonderful in everything they bring, and politicians are brave, and trial lawyers are wonderful. And I mean, I get that everybody has different opinions on all these things, but what they do is important. We value it once they get there. We have to get really good at valuing it right now when they're kids preparing to get there. And one of the best ways to do that is to teach in these methods, using these methods, because that will help them learn in the ways that they naturally learn at. Okay, that's it for performing. I will catch you on the next one. Thanks.